that the August 1 date didn't appear out of, it just didn't come out of thin air, but it appears to have gone into thin air now. It certainly does, John.
Matt. I mean, look, we got
right. Okay.
We have.
Finally, do you think that it is doable by the end of August for the talks to start, as Mr. Demistura?
Well, we certainly hope so, Said. I mean, that's really not. I don't think anybody can predict it, but the special envoy did suggest that he was going to try to get the next round started before the end of August. The secretary supports that goal and that effort, and that's why I think back to what he said yesterday. We have teams that are working so hard, a U.S. team and a Russia team working so hard right now to try to get the technicalities worked out of these proposals to better enforce the cessation of hostilities, because we both know that was a big reason why the previous 3 rounds didn't work, because the cessation was not being observed. Okay.
John, Turkey?
Wait, can I just stand this? So really, after the, everyone was under the impression that after the August 1st, if there wasn't a transition process in place, or at least talks going on, that there was going to be some kind of a change in strategy, change in how you approach this. Clearly, that doesn't seem to be the case. Is that right?
I don't know. I think some people. I've seen some reporting on this that would suggest that there was some sort of gauntlet thrown down about August 1st, and that's just not the case. It was not a deadline. It was a target date. It wasn't just the United States. The Russians also, when that date was rolled out as a target date, it was in Moscow, and the secretary was standing next to Foreign Minister Lavrov, who also agreed that the 1st of August was a good date to be looking at. Not just, and it didn't just pull it out of thin air. It was. If you look at the timeline of the process that was codified in the UN Security Council resolution, it would lead you to say that August was the time frame when a framework for a transitioning governing body was to be established. And now I'm getting there. Hang on a second. This is all important pretext. But
okay, you said you want to be done by 1.
Well, I do. I can get this. I can get this answer done by 1. I promise you.
You said that the August 1 date didn't appear out of, it just didn't come out of thin air, but it appears to have gone into thin air now. It certainly does, John.
Matt, I mean, look, we got.
Right. Okay.
We have the potential of a resumption of political talks here in August. We have 2 teams that are working very, very hard between the United States and Russia to try to get some of these technicalities worked out. What the secretary said then and what he said again yesterday was, in essence, our patience is not infinite, and we have in the past thought through alternatives to this preferred diplomatic approach, and we will continue as a government to continue to look at alternatives and options. But if you're asking, has, as of today, August 2nd, the strategy changed? The answer is no. And the secretary still believes that the efforts that we've got these teams working on are worthwhile, and that, as he said in Moscow a week or so ago, if fully implemented and in good faith, they have a real possibility of getting the cessation of hostilities to be enforceable nationwide.
What's the new date now? What's the new date? Any other date?
I don't have a new date for you. And again, August 1st was a target. It wasn't a deadline.
What's the new target?
I'm not going to throw out a new target. The secretary said yesterday, we're working hard on this with the Russians. We're mindful of the failures of the past to see the cessation of hostilities be enforced. And we're certainly mindful, as we work on this, Special Envoy de Mistura's goal of trying to get the talks resumed in the end of August. So we're going to keep working at it, and we'll see where it goes.
The secretary yesterday said that he said we're trying to arrive at that being disrupting the cycle of violence and getting the Russians to refrain from their own attacks and to restrain the Syrian government from offensive actions. Then he said, quote, if we can't, nobody's going to sit around and allow this pretense to continue, close quote. What did he mean by that?
I think he was referring to the fact that we have seen the regime time and time again in the past say they were going to do something and not do it. We have seen time and time again in the past the Russians claimed that they were going to use their influence on the Assad regime to bring about a certain outcome: humanitarian access, cessation violations, support to a political process. And there have been times where they have not met their own commitments in that regard. So that's what he's referring to. I mean,
Is she going to drop the diplomatic pretense at some point?
I'm not going to engage in hypotheticals here. I think the Secretary is very clear. Again, the point he was trying to make is that our patience isn't infinite here for this approach that we've been trying to pursue.
In a sense, doesn't have to be infinite, though. I mean, your patience can just extend for 6 months till the end of this administration.
I'm not gonna predict that, Arshad. And I'd rather take issue with the notion, and I'm not saying you're suggesting this, but just let me put it out there, that the work the Secretary is doing to try to bring peace about in Syria is driven by the electoral calendar here in the United States. He's mindful, of course, that we have an election coming. And he's mindful that the administration has roughly 6 more months in office. I mean, he knows that, but that's not what's driving his sense of urgency to try to get something done, to try to make progress in Syria. What's driving his sense of urgency, quite frankly, are reports such as what you cited today, which again we can't confirm, but if true, are very, very troubling. It's more and more Syrians are being killed, maimed, injured, forced to flee by their own government, and that's simply unacceptable.
Is it conceivable to you that U.S. patience, or that this administration's patience, will run out before it leaves office?
I don't honestly know the answer to that, and I don't think the Secretary knows the answer to that. I have said before, and I think you could hear it in his voice yesterday, that he is increasingly frustrated by the situation on the ground.